Come in. Sit down. I have a story for you. Sometimes everything works together to create the perfect tragedy. Sometimes fate offers our hand a way out. Sometimes arrogance refuses those warnings, and sometimes fate is unforgiving of that arrogance. This is the story of the RMS Titanic, a luxury steamship sank in the early hours of April 15, 1912, off the coast of Newfoundland in the North Atlantic, after sideswiping an iceberg during its maiden voyage. Of the 2,240 passengers who were on board, more than 1,500 lost their lives in the disaster. At an estimated cost of $7.5 million in 1912, in today's dollars it would cost roughly $400 million to construct. Captain Smith ignored 7 iceberg warnings from his crew and other ships. If he had called for the ship to slow down, then maybe the Titanic disaster would not have happened. The belief the ship was unsinkable was, in part, due to the fact that the Titanic had 16 watertight compartments. The ship burned around 600 tons of coal a day, hand-shoveled into its furnaces by a team of 176 men. Almost 100 tons of ash were injected into the sea every 24 hours. The ship's interiors were loosely inspired by those at the Ritz Hotel in London. Facilities on board included a gym, pool, Turkish bath, a kennel for first-class dogs, and a squash court. It even had its own on-board newspaper, the Atlantic Daily Bulletin. There were 20,000 bottles of beer on board, 1,500 bottles of wine, and 8,000 cigars, all for the use of first-class passengers. First-class passengers were given a music book containing 352 songs. Musicians on board were required to know them all, in case requests were made. John Jacob Astor IV was the richest passenger on board, with a net worth of around $85 million, approximately $2 billion today, and went down with the ship. One legend claims that after the ship hit the iceberg, he quipped to a waiter, "I asked for ice, but this is ridiculous." Another notable victim was Benjamin Guggenheim, an American businessman. Realizing that the ship was going down, he and his valet, Victor Giglio, reputedly changed their evening wear while he remarked, "We've dressed up in our best and are prepared to go down like gentlemen." They were last spotted on deck, in chairs, drinking brandy and smoking cigars. Noah Leslie, the Countess of France, was also on board, but she survived. She is mentioned in an episode of Downton Abbey. Isn't this terrible when you think how excited Lucy Rose was at the prospect? Remarked the Countess of Random when she hears of the disaster. Numerous people held tickets for the journey, but did not actually sail, including Milton S. Hershey, founder of the chocolate firm, Googly, Emo Marconi, and Albert Glenn Vanderbilt, who died on the RMS Lusitania 3 years later. The last remaining survivor of the disaster, Melvina Dean, died on May 31st, 2009, age 97. She was 2 months old at the time of the voyage. The grand staircase on board descended down 7 of the ship's 10 decks and featured unveiling, bronze strips, and paintings. Replicas can be found at the Titanic Museum in Branson, Missouri. 22 tons of soap and tallow, rendered beef or mutton fat, were smeared on the slipway to assist in uninter passage into the River Lebanon. The ship made 2 stops after leaving Southampton, at Cherbourg in North France, and then Queenstown in Ireland. Of the 885 crew on board, just 23 were female. 699 boarded in the Southampton. The staircase at the White Swan Hotel in Montweg contains banisters from the grand staircase of the Titanic sister ship, the Olympic. They were presumed to have been identical. Only 16 wooden lifeboats and 4 collapsible boats were carried, enough to recorded during the ship's 26-month construction in Belfast. 22 horses were required to carry the main anchor. High speeds, a fatal wrong turn, cut costs, weather conditions, a dismissed key iceberg warning, and lack of binoculars and lifeboats all contributed to one of the worst maritime tragedies in history. The giant iceberg that sank the Titanic was between 50 and 100 feet tall and 42 meters long. It is estimated to have been about 100,000 years old and may have originated in snow that fell in southwest Greenland. The Titanic received 6 warnings of sea ice on April 14th, but was traveling about 22 knots when our lookout sighted the iceberg. One of the warnings came from the America, a ship that William Mayo, co-founder of the Mayo Clinic, was voyaging on at the time. The warning is documented in his diary. The iceberg was spotted at 11:40 p.m. on April 14th, 1912, by lookout Frederick Fleet of Brooklyn. Iceberg, right ahead. Fleet survived the disaster and was a lookout on the RMS Oceanic during the 20s before serving in the Second World War. Pranksters placed a pair of binoculars on his grave in 2012 with a note saying, "Sorry, they're 100 years too late." Just 37 seconds elapsed between the sighting of the iceberg and the collision. First Officer William Master Murdoch ordered the ship to turn, but it was too late to do so in time. It has been suggested that the ship would not have sank if it hit the iceberg head-on. Murdoch went down with the ship. A memorial to him is found in his hometown in Scotland. 26 of those on board were honeymooning couples. Musicians played for 2 hours and 5 minutes as the ship sank. A lifeboat drive scheduled for April 14th was canceled for unknown reasons. The last summer served to first-class passengers consisted of 11 courses, while 700 people, mainly female passengers, survived. Almost all of them had escaped in lifeboats launched before the ship went down. Only about 40 who were thrown or jumped into the sea were rescued. 17-year-old Jack Bayer was among them. Bayer later committed suicide when he lost his son in World War II. Of the 107 children traveling on the Titanic, almost half were killed in the ship sank. 50 children in total. Only one of the children from first class perished. 4 of the first class passengers survived because their cabins were closer to lifeboats, and many of the immigrants in third class died because they're poor Englishmen. They did not understand what was happening. The purser's safe brought up from the wreck contained an assortment of gold-colored British coins, whose value was estimated by an expert at about $5,000. 340 bodies were recovered after the sinking of the ship. Of the roughly 1,500 people killed in the disaster, about 1,160 bodies remain lost. Because some ships of loose scattered around the wreck would also suggest that human remains may be buried inside, sealed and inaccessible areas of the wreck. According to the recently recovered passenger records from RMS Titanic, the third-class passengers who died when the liner sank were dumped back into the freezing waters so that the bodies belonging to the higher class could be saved. The recovery of the bodies lasted from April until May 1912. The criteria for distinguishing the rich from the poor were the clothes they were wearing and what they had in their pockets. The McKay Bennett crew kept records of what they found on each body, and if it belonged to a first-class or second-class passenger, it was embalmed and stored for the journey back. In 1934, White Star Line merged with Cunard Line, and all the documents, including the Titanic passenger records, went into a dumpster. Luckily, an employee recovered them, and they were kept in his family until 1980, when historian Charles Haas purchased them. It took him many years to restore the documents, and now Mr. Haas has released them on his online site, the Titanic Channel. ship's remains 2.5 miles down on the ocean bottom, he discovered that it had, in fact, broken in two on the surface before sinking. His findings made the Titanic rise again in the public imagination. The bow penetrated 18 meters into the seabed. James Cameron's Titanic shows passengers in third class locked below deck while the first class get the seats on the lifeboats. There were gates on the Titanic, but those were for U.S. immigration purposes to stop the spread of infectious disease on the ship between classes. James Cameron's 1997 effort is undoubtedly the most successful film about the Titanic. It has grossed more than $2 billion and won 11 Oscars. The film's main song, My Heart Will Go On, by Celine Dion, was the biggest selling single in 1998 and has been covered by Neil Diamond, Sarah Brightman, Kenny G, and Miss Piggy from the Muppets. The real woman, Beatrice Wood, that the fictional character Rose was modeled after, died in 1998 at the age of 105. The passengers avoided shark disasters for food-related reasons: too cold and too far. 3 potentially dangerous Atlantic sharks would leave the ocean: a white tip,